Here at Soul City, we long to see the soul, the city, and the world transformed by an only God movement. That's why this year-end, we're launching a campaign to spread hope, joy, peace, and love to those who need it this holiday season. As a church, our goal is to raise $350,000 to fund 4 unique initiatives. Let's start with hope. Several months ago, we saw hundreds of men, women, and children who emigrated to the Chicagoland area seeking asylum begin to live at our local police station. Since August, Soul City has been partnering with these folks, providing meals and hats and coats as the weather grows colder. Your support in this campaign will allow our church to continue to be a good neighbor in our community and provide hope to anyone who finds themselves needing it. Moving on to joy. Every year, joy becomes tangible on the west side of Chicago through our Christmas store. Your generosity will enable us to once again invite local families to purchase new Christmas gifts and winter coats at a drastically reduced price. Your contribution can help make this magical season even brighter for these families. For our next initiative, Peace. Once again, our church has partnered with Breakthrough Urban Ministries to provide 750 gratitude Thanksgiving baskets to local families, giving them peace of mind knowing that their tables will be full this Thanksgiving. And finally, love. With your support, we're embarking on a journey to enhance our hospitality with a full kitchen renovation at Soul City Church. Hundreds of meals are cooked each week for people both inside and outside of Soul City. This renovation will enable us to serve our church and our city even better as our culinary team and our partners continue to cook and serve with love. With your generous support, Soul City, we can make these visions a reality for our church and for our community. Together, we can bring hope and joy and peace and love. All right. Yeah, you can clap. That's all right. You can clap. You can clap. Very good. Very good. Well, Soul City Church, good morning. You're here, and you're here, if you know what I mean. If we haven't had the chance to meet yet, my name is John. I have the privilege of being one of the pastors here, and I also have I moonlight as a voiceover artist for end-of-year campaign videos. So anyone in here, runs a nonprofit, you're looking for somebody, I'm available. We can talk after. I'll give you my card. No, but I'm really excited that you're here, whether you're in this room or those of you worshiping with us online. You braved through what is now, I think we can call officially winter. The snow has arrived, and that means it's winter, which I'm not going to complain about it because that's where we're supposed to be. So I'm excited that you're here, regardless of how much snow you had to fight through to get there. And, we're talking about this end-of-year campaign, and I actually think it's a beautiful opportunity that we all have as a church at the end of the year, a season, by the way, that we always hear about and we always talk about as a season of giving. What an awesome opportunity we have to come together to raise $350,000. And maybe that sounds like a lot to you, maybe that doesn't sound like a lot to you, but that's kind of where we feel God leading us as a community. And it's not really as much about the number as it is about us as a community going above and beyond, stepping deeper into generosity so that we can, one, make the love of God tangible for those in our church and around our city. But also, I actually believe, having been a part of several of these campaigns before, stepping into this campaign, stepping above and beyond, it actually helps you to become a more generous person in all aspects of your life. And maybe you've been here for a few years like me, you've been a part of campaigns like this before, and you are all in, you're ready actually to give to this campaign today. If that's you, you can actually scan the QR code that's up on the screen behind me, and you can give your gift today. The campaign is launching today. We're beginning to move toward that $350,000 goal. So you can scan the QR code and give in that way. But if you're maybe more new to this, you're new around Soul City, you haven't been a part of the end-of-year campaign before, then what I want to ask you to do today, rather than scan that QR code, I actually want to just ask you to begin to pray. To just begin today to pray and to think, what might it look like for you or for you and your family, again, to go above and beyond your normal giving if you regularly give this year. to maybe take a step of faith, to step outside of your comfort zone, to become a more generous person, and to be a part of our church, spreading hope, joy, peace, and love all throughout this city this holiday season. And that, as Brandon mentioned, the name of that campaign is taken directly from the name of a new teaching series that I have the privilege of kicking off today, Hope and Joy and Peace and Love. We're getting the band back together, people. And this is a series that we've been working on and dreaming up for a little while. And the purpose of this series is to help us as a church walk through the season of Advent. Everybody say Advent. Yes, raise your hand if you've ever been a part of a church, or maybe you grew up in a church that made a really big deal of Advent. Any Advent heads here? They don't call them that. I just made that up. But yeah, some of you are familiar with Advent. For me, growing up, me and my family, we definitely were not like every week church people, but especially around this time of year, we went to church a little bit more. And the church that we went to, it was a church that every week during the month of December specifically, they would light a different Advent candle. Anyone ever work with like an Advent wreath or see this done before? Yeah, and the point of this is that each one of these candles, as you light it, it is meant to represent a different marker, a different hallmark of the Advent season. There's the hope candle, there's the joy candle, peace, love, and so on. But if you've been around Advent or celebrated it before, you know that Advent is far more than just lighting a candle once a week. But I actually once heard a pastor who is much smarter and much more creative than me define Advent as a season of preparation and anticipation for the coming incarnation of Jesus. This pastor moonlighted as a rapper, not as a voiceover artist. And that really, all that is just like a nerdy, pastory way of saying that Advent is a season of preparation and anticipation for the birth of Jesus. Or to boil it down even more, here's what Advent is. Nuts and bolts, what Advent is it is a season of getting excited for Christmas. That's really what it is. Which means that even if you have never celebrated Advent before, you've probably celebrated Advent before. Because my guess is, at some point in your life along the way, you got excited when Christmas was coming up. I know for me, I remember as a kid how hype I would get the day after Thanksgiving when it was like officially Christmas season for everyone, even the Grinches who don't listen to Christmas music until after Thanksgiving. Like, there is no excuse now, people. It is time. And I would get so excited as a kid. We had one of those calendars in my house growing up where you would like switch the day. Anyone have one of these? You would like switch the day every day in December. This was my job in the house as a kid. And I was religious about it. Like, if we fell behind or if anyone tried to put us ahead, I'd call a family meeting and say, listen, people, we need to tighten up around here. This is Christmas. I remember like when gifts when they started to appear under the tree, how excited I would get. And as a kid, like well into my teen years, I would do everything short of tearing the wrapping paper off just to try and figure out what could be inside. And every year I wrote down a list of the order that I would open these gifts in. I had my own fantasy draft with my Christmas gifts. That's how seriously I took it, because that's how excited I was for Christmas as a kid. And even as an adult, I have things that I get excited about around this time of year. I'm sure you do too, whether maybe it's a certain holiday party that you go to every year, or watching your favorite Christmas movies, eating your favorite Christmas cookies. I mean, for some of you, like the best day of the year for you is the day that Starbucks rolls out their holiday cups. And it's not just because of the peppermint mochas. It's because when we see these cups, we know that Christmas is coming, and it builds this sense of anticipation and excitement. And I think that what we're experiencing in all of that anticipation, what we're sort of feeling in all of that expectancy, a word for it would be hope. That's what we're feeling around this time of year. We're feeling hope. And according to the dictionary, because I looked up hope this week, hope is a feeling of expectation and the desire for a certain thing to happen. And I don't know about you, but I don't think I could choose better words to describe how I felt about Christmas as a kid. So much excitement, so much expectancy. Couldn't wait for that thing to happen. And if you think about it, like, that's what every single Christmas movie that we watch, Every Christmas song that we listen to over and over and over, every Christmas ad that we see is telling us that that is exactly how we are supposed to feel this time of year. And yet, I'm also aware that that is not quite the case for some of us here today. I did a little research this week, and I found a study that was done in 2022, this time last year, of over 2,000 Americans, where they asked them about their emotional state during the holiday season. And two things really popped out to me. One finding was that 38% of those 2,000 Americans reported significantly higher levels of stress during the holidays. Raise your hand if you are a witness to that 38%. Anybody? Just me? A few of you. Thank you for being honest. And another thing that really popped out to me was this one, and it's that 55% reported increased feelings of sadness or loneliness during the holiday season. 55%. And what this would tell me is that if this survey is to be believed, that means that over a third of us in this room, when we hear that Christmas is coming, rather than being expectant for it, we're actually already feeling exhausted by it. Rather than anticipating Christmas, we actually are already in a place where part of us just wants to avoid it. If this survey is to be believed, it means that for over half of this room, when this time of year shows up, instead of feeling that thrill of hope, many of us are actually feeling the pain of hopelessness. And there's a lot of reasons why this could be true. Because, yeah, it's Christmas, but maybe for you, it's another Christmas without a significant other. Or maybe for you, it's another Christmas estranged from your family. It's another Christmas where everyone's telling you to be generous, but you know that you're going to struggle to just pay your bills in December. Yeah, it's Christmas, but don't you know what is going on in the world right now? Yeah, it's Christmas, but it's another Christmas feeling lonely, another Christmas feeling depressed. And I know that this is not the case for everyone in this room, but I have to believe that this is the case for at least a few of us as we move into this season. And so the question that I want us to ask and kind of wrestle with together for just a few moments today is this: how do you find hope when you're not feeling hopeful? How do you actually find hope when what you are seeing in your circumstances, in your life or around the world, is leading you to feel anything but hopeful? How do you find hope, even in those moments, even in those seasons where you might not be feeling it? That's what we're going to talk about today. And to do it, I'm actually going to ask you to reach under the seat in front of you and go ahead and grab a Bible, or on the armrest for those of you in the balcony. And I'm going to ask everyone to do this today because we're like high participation with this. So go ahead, grab a Bible. And normally, this is the moment where I would ask you to open up. Everyone, we'd open up to the same passage or the same verse, and we'd read that singular passage together. But today, I want to do something a little different, and I want to have a little fun with it, if it's okay with you. So what we're going to do, because what I want to do is I want to show you how hope and finding hope doesn't just appear in one verse or one story of the Bible, but hope and finding hope is actually something that weaves itself all the way through the Bible. And so what I have done is I have chosen a bunch of different verses that we're going to read today, and you all are going to help me read different ones. So you didn't know this, but I also have a side hustle as a graphic designer. So look at this lovely little chart that I made of this room. Yes, it is to scale. Don't check that work, though. And here's what we're going to do. You see 4 different verses up there, and that corresponds with where you are sitting in this room. You all, you can see this, so you can figure out. So if you're sitting in that back corner over there, you are going to turn to Romans 15:4, page 922. If you're sitting down here, you're going to be our Psalm 130 crowd. So you're going to turn to that page that corresponds with where you're sitting. Nod your head if you're following me. So good at following directions. Thank you all. We are going to read through all of these verses, and I'm going to read it through with your section when we get to your verse. And here's how we're going to do it. We're going to have a little healthy competition here today. When I get to your verse, I'm going to ask for your help, and you're going to know. It's going to be really obvious when and how you're supposed to help me. And the section that I think does the best at helping me, I didn't quite think far enough to get a prize, actually, but you can have bragging rights, so that's how we're going to do it. Got it? Okay, we're going to start down here. Psalm 130, yes, raise your hand, that's you. Down here and up here, that's you too? Yes? Okay, Psalm 130, here we go. Again, it's going to be real obvious when you're supposed to help me out. Here we go. Psalm 130 verse 7 says this, Israel, anytime you hear Israel, it means God's people. People of God, that's what it means. Israel, put your what? Whoa. The bar has been set, ladies and gentlemen. Israel, put your hope in the Lord. For with the Lord is unfailing love, and with him is full redemption. Where are my Lamentations folks at? Where are my Lamentations folks at? Right down here. Lovely. Welcome, welcome. The bar, it's up here. Here we go. Lamentations 3, verse 21. Yet this I call to mind, and therefore I have what? Woo! Here we go. This I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. Because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed. For his compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. Where are my 2 Corinthians people? Raise your hand. Yes, and balcony up there, that's you too, that's you too. Judging by the hand raises, my expectations are low. Prove me wrong. Here we go. 2 Corinthians chapter 1 verse 10 says this, he has delivered us, meaning God has delivered us from such a deadly peril, and he will deliver us again. On him we have set our what? That was like drawn out, like hope. I love it, I love it. On God we have set our hope, that he will continue to deliver us. Now, Romans crew, Romans corner over there, bring up the rear. You got this. I believe you. Romans chapter 15 verse 4 says, for everything that was written in the past was written to teach us, so that through the endurance taught in the scriptures and the encouragement they provide, we might have woo! Got to be honest, Romans corner, felt like you overdid it a little bit. I'm kidding. You all did great. Thank you. Honestly, I'm going to give that to Psalm 130 over here. Only because they went first. And let me tell you, when they went first at the 9 a.m., crickets. I was left up here naked. It was not fun. Okay, so why do I show you that? Those are just 4 of so many examples. We could read all day long. Those are just 4 of so many examples of hope being a hallmark for God's people. Part of the reason that I want to walk you through those verses is because I want to show you that all throughout the story of God's people, in the Old Testament and in the New Testament, in seasons of blessing and in seasons of brokenness, in times when it felt very easy and even in times where it felt absolutely impossible, God's people have been a people who cling to hope. Each and every one of those verses was written at a different time in history by a different person facing their own unique challenges, and yet all of them are clinging to hope. That is a hallmark of God's people, and we as God's people are meant to engage in that same practice. We are meant to be a people who cling to hope. But that's not the only reason I show you those verses. I also want you to see where that hope comes from. And each and every one of these verses actually gives us a small glimpse of where they find that hope. So I'm going to read those verses again. You might not have noticed where it was because you were focusing on our competition and you just wanted to yell hope really loud. So I'm going to read them again for you. And this time, I just want you to listen and keep your eyes and ears open for where that hope is found. And I'll give you a small little clue. It's all found in the same place. So let's start. Psalm 130, again, here it goes. It says this, it says, Israel, put your hope in the Lord, for with the Lord is unfailing love, and with him is full redemption. Let's keep going. Lamentations 3, keep your eyes open. Yet this I call to mind, and therefore, because of this, I have hope. Because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed. For his compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. Keep it going to 2 Corinthians chapter 1. God has delivered us from such a deadly peril, and God will deliver us again. On God we have put our hope that he will continue to deliver us. And finally, Romans 15, verse 4, for everything that was written in the past was written to teach us, so that through the endurance that was taught in the scriptures, and the encouragement they provide, we might have hope. So let me draw this out for us. Not only do all of these people across multiple generations in different parts of the globe, not only do they all have the same hope, but if you notice, they all find that hope in the same place. Now, they may have all said it in very different ways, but they are all, every single one of these biblical authors is pulling their hope from the same source, and it is this. They find hope for their present circumstance by remembering God's past faithfulness. All of these verses, if you think about it, they are essentially saying the same exact thing. Psalm 130, Lamentations, what they're saying is, God, I have hope for today because of your unfailing love. Because your love has never failed me or let me down before, I have hope that you will not today. If you think about it, what these verses are saying is Romans is saying, God, I have hope for today because I know the scriptures. And I know that this book is filled with story after story of you coming through time and time and time and time again. And because I've seen how you came through then, I have greater hope that you're going to come through now. What 2 Corinthians is saying is that because you have delivered me before, God, I actually have hope that you are going to deliver me again. It is God's past faithfulness that motivates our present hope. That's biblical hope. Yeah. Biblical hope is not just a feeling, but biblical hope is actually a confident expectation based on God's past faithfulness. Now, half of you clapped there, which means the other half of you probably don't get it yet. And so let me explain it to you in a slightly different way. Let's say that you were going to go out on a first date with somebody. Very exciting for you. Now, I imagine if you're going to go out on this date with this person, you are hoping that it's going to go well. I don't know why you would spend the time on the app and spend the time getting ready if you didn't at least hope it was going to go well with this person. And that's great. I hope it goes well for you as well. I hope you hit it off, have a long, healthy relationship. But I also want to point out that the hope you have for this first date, that hope is really just a wish. Like, it's really nothing more than that. That hope is based on nothing other than a picture in their profile and a few characteristics that they chose for themselves, by the way. Like, really, you're just leaving it up to like a wish. And there's nothing wrong with that either. That's actually kind of the game that you have to play when you are first dating somebody. On the other hand, when I go out on a date with my wife, I also have hope that we're going to have a great time. But my hope is a little bit more than a wish. I'm not just leaving it up to chance. But when Aaron and I went out to dinner last week, I had great hope that we were going to have a good time together because I have 14 years worth of experiences showing me that we are compatible. I have a decade and a half worth of evidence that says we make each other laugh and we enjoy each other's company. I have 14 years of faithful love with her. And so I have great hope that if we enjoyed a skillet queso at Chili's then we are going to enjoy it again by the power of God. It's not just wishing it, it is a confident expectation based on past experience. And that's what Christian hope is. It is remembering God's past faithfulness and looking at that evidence, we say, I'm confident that God will do it again today. Here's what Christian hope is. You ready for this? It says this: if God did it then, God will do it again. Period. End of story. If God did it then, whether in your life, whether in someone else's life, whether throughout Scripture, if God did it then, and if God is faithful, and if God is consistent, and if God is unchanging, then who are we to believe anything other than the fact that God would do it again? And so what does this mean for you and me? What does that actually mean for maybe the feelings of hopelessness that you walk into these holidays with? Well, it means if you're walking into this season feeling hopeless about brokenness in your family, for example. I know as I was praying through this message, that's an area where I was feeling some hopelessness. This decade, the 2020s, has been extremely rough on my family of origin. And if I'm really honest with you, my hopelessness around real reconciliation in my family is to the point where I don't even actively feel the hopelessness anymore because I don't even want to go there. And maybe for you, like this past week at Thanksgiving, it only highlighted some of the brokenness in your family. If you're feeling that pain of hopelessness, then maybe remembering that if God in Jesus can reconcile an entire broken world to himself, maybe remembering that our God is a reconciler and our God is a redeemer and our God is not a God who ends things in brokenness, maybe that can actually give you greater hope that God might do a little reconciliation in your family this Christmas. Or maybe for you, you look at the state of our world right now. You think about what's happening in Israel and Gaza, or what happens in our very own city each and every week, and you think, how could I have hope? It's so easy to feel hopeless when all we see on the news is war and violence and brokenness. If that has you feeling hopeless, then I want to remind you this from 1 Corinthians 14. It says, God is not a God of disorder, but God is a God of peace. God is a God of peace. And if there is war and there is violence that has broken out all throughout history, if God brought peace then, perhaps that can give us greater hope that even in our day, God could bring peace again. Or maybe for you, maybe it's loss. Maybe grief is sitting heavy on your heart or heavy on your family walking into these holidays because now it's the first year with an empty seat at your table. Or maybe it's another year with that empty seat. And if that has you feeling hopeless, then I just wonder, would you be open to being reminded that we're talking about a God who doesn't just do miraculous things, but this is a God who is described as the God of all comfort, the God who is an ever-present help in trouble. And I just wonder if for you, if being reminded today that this is the God who said, I will never leave you or forsake you, even in your loss, even in your tears, even in your grief. I wonder if just that little reminder of Emmanuel, God with you, would help you find a little hope in your grief. Listen, I don't know your exact circumstances. I don't know your exact story. I don't know where you might be feeling hopeless in your life. What I do know is that wherever you are feeling hopeless, I can guarantee you there is a promise or there is some type of evidence of God's past faithfulness in that area. Whether it's in your own story, whether it's someone that you know, whether it's through the thousands of years of evidence we have in Scripture. And I just wonder, again, if reminding yourself of God's past faithfulness will help you to find hope. Even if you don't feel it, it'll help you to find hope in your present circumstance. And so what I want to invite all of us to do this week is when you find yourself maybe feeling that hopelessness, I just want you to do a little exercise in that moment. I just want you to do everything within yourself to remind you of God's past faithfulness. Remind yourself. Tell yourself the story of how God came through for you before. Or remind yourself of the story of someone else in your life. Pick up the scriptures and read the stories, thousands of stories of how God came through before. And once you have that evidence, once you've remembered that experience, I just want you to preach a one-line sermon to yourself, because sometimes you got to preach to yourself because I'm not around to do it. I just want you to preach to yourself, hey, if God did it then, God will do it again. If God provided for me then, I believe, I have hope God will provide for me again. If God brought me through that season of depression, God will bring me through this season again. If God helped me to find meaningful community in that city when I felt lonely, then I'm choosing to believe I have hope that God is going to help me in this city. If God did it then, if God is faithful, then God will do it again. I want to invite you, if you're able, would you stand to your feet if you're in this room? Because we're going to respond by worshiping and singing about the hope that we have found. Maybe not a hope that we always feel, but it is actually better than that. It is a hope based on evidence, a hope based on the fact that 2,000 years ago, God stepped into the human story in Jesus. And if God stepped into our story then can't we believe that God would do it again? And so God, I just want to pray right now for anyone who might be feeling hopeless. God, I pray that right now your Holy Spirit would come and rest on them in an undeniable way. That perhaps the hope that they're going to leave here with is just being reminded that they are not alone. That you never leave them, that you never forsake them. Father, help us to find hope in who you are. Help us to find hope in all that you've done. God, may we be people who consistently remind ourselves of your goodness and your power and your consistency and your faithfulness and your light. God, help us to be people who consistently remind ourselves of all that you've done so that we can live with greater hope for today. And right now, Jesus, we want to sing about what you did 2,000 years ago, stepping into the human story, and we say with hope that we believe if you stepped into our story then maybe this Christmas you'll step into our story as well. We sing and we worship you now. In Jesus' name, amen.